This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do over the airwaves of ESPN Radio every weekday. 250 plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM, Channel 80. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. As the day progresses, there's so many markets, there's so many cities that's going to be affected by what's transpiring in free agency, pending free agency in the NBA. We'll definitely get into that. Some NFL talk to get to as well. I'll definitely get into that. Tom Brady had a conversation with Oprah. I'll definitely be bringing that up. And obviously, there are some things to get into as well, some other NFL items that I'll touch on. But before I get into my first topic, the top topic on my mind at this particular moment in time, I wanted to remind y'all. Don't know if you heard the news. And to a lot of you folks out there, you might think it has absolutely nothing to do with you, but I got news for you. It does. The state of New Jersey, led by Governor Phil Murphy, placed the state's first sports bet today. The state, credited with further opening the doors to legalize sports gambling, began taking bets today, y'all. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy placed the first bets in the state at Mammoth Park Racetrack, a $20 bet on Germany actually winning the World Cup, another $20 bet on the New Jersey Devils winning the Stanley Cup next season. There was a state senator that joined him. Obviously, it was a big deal. Signed into law in 2013. New Jersey Sports Betting Act. Signed into law in 2013, the state still had to wait until last month when the United States Supreme Court ruled the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act of 1992 unconstitutional. That allowed the states to unilaterally make their own decisions in regard to sports betting as opposed to making it a federal offense to engage in sports betting itself. The state was beaten to the punch last Tuesday, reading an article from Darren Rovell of ESPN, business reporter, who, by the way, will be on with us in less than 30 minutes or so. Listen, they got beat to the punch by Delaware, which placed its first bet, what was it, last Tuesday? All right, they began taking their first single-game sports bets. Julius Erving, Dr. J, the doctor, the former star in the NBA, of the Philadelphia 76ers, placed a $5 wager on the Philadelphia Eagles to repeat as Super Bowl champions. He did that at the Borgata Racing Sportsbook at 11 a.m. today. He spoke about it, talked about how it'll be a quick learning curve for the state of New Jersey, but he anticipates that they'll be successful in doing so. If you recall, New Jersey is expected to be a big betting state. William Hill, U.S. Chief Executive Joe Asher, told ESPN that at maturity, he expects the state to handle roughly $10 billion in bets. Projections, Asher cautions, will depend on a lot of factors, including whether the legalization will lead gamblers to leave their bookies. See, for me, ladies and gentlemen, here's the question. As to whether or not betting, gambling on a world of professional sports is a good or bad thing. To me, it's a good thing. Number one is a question mark as to whether guys will leave their bookies, but and evade that underground stuff, which I think will happen. I think it will generate more revenue for the economy. I think dollars will flow into the right places. And as a result, for the most part, states will become fruitful and enabled to multiply. I think for the leagues, it will be good because I think it will elevate interest. I think for the television networks, the radio networks, and beyond, it will elevate interest in the world of sports. You'll see people clamoring for more information. Why? Because the more information you get, ultimately, it'll put you in a better position to make more quality bets. And rather than investing your money on Wall Street and waiting months or years for fruition to come about, this stuff could happen in a matter of minutes. If you're lucky enough, gifted enough, skilled enough at gambling, you can alter your life in a heartbeat. You can show up to a casino or some betting booth or what have you. And guess what? You can lit up there and you can show up to one of them 21 ticket windows at Mammoth Park. And in a span of a minute or two, if not minutes or hours. Literally be able to pay your bills if you win. Now, for those of you who might look at it negatively, entirely different approach. You can ruin your life. It can build addiction in some people. It might not be what you need it to be. It might not be what you want it to be. It could be problematic. All of that's true. But I think in the end, here's what it comes down to. By virtue of the fact that you have fantasy football, fantasy basketball, fantasy baseball, and all of this other stuff, we've been gambling, folks. We've been gambling. Let's not fool ourselves. Let's not act like we're all that clueless. The bottom line is we've been gambling. So its legalization is necessary. This is not like weed. I am not a proponent of legalizing marijuana. For medicinal purposes, yes. Not for recreational purposes. Hell no. Folks will remain nameless, but we've seen folks in the world of professional sports that we looked at, and we looked at the way they played, and we said, damn, are they high? I don't want those question marks in the world of sports. And I'll be the first to admit that I think that stringent rules should be placed upon sports teams, players, everyone associated with the world of sports, because we got to make sure that the integrity of the sports are not compromised, which I think will be handled. With all these fantasy sports leagues going on and us having to deal with that, with these polls and these brackets and everything else that was taking place, and we had to deal with that. No reason to believe that that's going to be a problem now. No reason to believe that that can't be handled now. So I am a proponent of the Supreme Court's decision to essentially open the floodgates for individual states to legalize gambling in sports if they so choose. The hell with that Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act of 1992. It's 2018. It's 26 years ago. Times have changed. Social media, the advent of social media. Fantasy sports and beyond. It's changed. This is a different world. It's not what it used to be. And because of that, I say to you, go ahead and legalize it. Just understand the ramifications. Understand that you legalizing it, it's going to be a lot more people gambling because it's been legalized. They don't have to go underground to do it. They don't have to engage with a bookie to do it. They don't have to worry about their health and beyond, because you just never know how the underground world works. So the pros of it is that it's going to stimulate the economy. It's going to generate more money for the economy because the money will be going into the right hands, we suppose, put forth for better use, we suppose. The flip side to it is that there's going to be a proliferation in gambling addicts. You're going to see people putting their families and their livelihoods on the line because of it. You're going to see an elevated level of violence. There's pros and cons to everything. This is no different. Now, for those of you out there who says, why do we have to go the route of the economy? Why do we have to be so generic in our approach to discussing that? I'll tell you why, ladies and gentlemen, because everything's about the economy. We need to grow up and stop fooling ourselves. Everything's about the economy because everything's about money, because everything's about having money in your pocket. I remember when President Obama was in office, and one of the first things he was focused on was universal health care. And my position was be focused on the money. Not that I know any better. I'm not trying to get political here and trying to act as if I'm an aficionado on these things. I'm just talking as a layman on the outside looking in, watching television, watching shows, reading the newspaper. Almost every article at that time, once he went into office, was about, universal health care. And my attitude was focus on the economy. Because the economy means jobs. Jobs mean money. And the more money folks have in their pocket, the more happier they will be. Now, none of it means anything without good health, and I understand. I'm not talking about good health. I'm talking about health care. If you got money in your pocket, chances are you're going to be happier. If you're happier, chances are you're going to be healthier. That's how it works. Not in all cases, but in a lot more than we give credit for. You're talking about attitudes being changed. You're talking about stress not being as much of a factor. You're talking about violence being or dissipating to some degree. Because if you got money in your pocket, why do you feel the need to bother somebody else in most situations? Be fruitful. That's what it's about. So I'm all for dollars and cents. I'm a proud capitalist. And anything that generates more money for an economy ultimately generates more jobs, more opportunities. And the more opportunities more people have, the better of a society we are. I truly do believe the more we have, the more we'll spend. And the more we have to spend, the happier we'll be. Now, that doesn't mean that's more valuable than your health. I'm saying it contributes to good health. More money, less stress. Anybody that's broke understands what I'm saying. You worried about paying your bills? You worried about being able to buy something? You worried about having a roof over your head, or food on your plate, or clothes on your back? Life is considerably more stressful. Those who have lived a life of affluence, you have no idea what I'm talking about. Most of us who have been poor, we understand exactly what I'm talking about. And anything that could contribute to elevating our society economically, we must entertain. Now, those of you out there who would be stupid enough to argue with me about that being a case for legalizing marijuana, stop. Stop it. Like I said, I'm not talking for medicinal purposes. It's legalized in at least 26 states. Medicinal marijuana use. I am not going into that debate. There is no debate. I support that. I'm talking about dudes and gals who are in good health, but want to use it recreationally, want to show up to work high. Man, boss getting on my nerves, man. I can't stand. I'm all right. It's going to be it's no big deal. Man, back shop. Boss giving you orders, you like, huh? Nah, I don't support that. Not at all. Ain't standing for it. Don't want no parts of it. Because that's a recipe for disaster. More so than anybody can want to come up with. I don't care what anybody says. I've seen it. I want no part of it in the world of sports. Cats stepping on the court or the field to play. They ain't ready to perform. They chilling. Now, some people say, oh, Stephen A., but, that ain't got nothing to do with when they're home. Well, if you're using it excessively enough, who's to say you're going to stop when you leave home? Because I'm here to tell you, marijuana is addictive. I don't give a damn what nobody says. I've seen too many nuggets of evidence to support that theory. It can be addictive in some cases. That's the accurate way to display it, to say it. Now, that doesn't mean sports gambling can't be addictive too. I'm simply saying it already exists. And leagues have already been profiting off of it, as have networks. ESPN got a fantasy football channel. You know what I'm saying? They're not channel, but fantasy football shows. Can't tell you. I can't begin to tell you how popular it is. Just ask our Matthew Berry. It's incredibly popular. Networks profit off of it. Leagues profit off of it. Why not everybody else? It's the way I look at it. It's the way I view it. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Let me transition to another subject. And I want to have a direct conversation right now. Hopefully he's listening somewhere. His name would be Irvin Magic Johnson. If he's not listening, his right-hand man, Lon Rosen, super agent, great guy, by the way. He's listening. Let me say this. You'll be hard-pressed to find folks that would display more respect, more reverence to the great Magic Johnson than me. He's a 5-time champion, went to the finals 9 times, was a treasure and a tribute to this sport. He's a basketball savant, brilliant when it comes to the game of basketball, special in a lot of ways. There is no doubt. There is no doubt. There is also no doubt that Magic Johnson is a significant upgrade to Jim Buss. Jim Buss had no business being in that position. He was just there because his daddy once owned the team. God rest his soul. Sitting there watching games at Hooters. Damn near wasn't at the game half the time. Took Jeannie Buss forever to get rid of him. Shouldn't have taken that damn long. Let him spend the family's money, do what he got to do. But he had no business. I don't give a damn. Let him go back to the horses. Now that we've got sports gambling being allowed, the Supreme Court opening the doors for that. Let Jim Buss go back to gambling, to doing whatever the hell he was doing with horses. Don't need to be a part of basketball. It's a great, great thing that Magic Johnson is the face of the Los Angeles Lakers franchise right now. But my brother Magic Johnson, if you are listening, you have got to get something done this summer. LeBron James, Paul George, a trade involving Kawhi Leonard, or Kemba Walker, you got to get something. Earvin Magic Johnson, you cannot finish the summer of 2018 with nothing. It cannot happen. LeBron James, for all intent and purposes, everybody believes that's where he's going to end up going, L.A. Paul George has a decision to make, 3-pronged decision. Oklahoma City's going to offer him the max. He's from Palmdale, California. He wants to come back to L.A. But if he went to Philadelphia, it would be a special situation for him because it's tailor-made for him. Ben Simmons can't shoot. He can do everything else, but he can't shoot. He's got to work on his shot. That's not a problem Paul George has. Ben Simmons can handle the ball. Paul George is a definite upgrade from J.J. Redick. No disrespect because I love J.J. Redick. And Joel Embiid. And with Paul George in Philadelphia, 76ers would be a title contender. I'm telling you that right now. With who they have, they'd give Boston a run for their money. And we all know it's about Boston and Philadelphia in the future. Unless LeBron goes to one of them, then it's about whatever team he's on, assuming he stays out east. But I'm here to tell you right now, you cannot be Earvin Magic Johnson, the president of basketball operations, for arguably the most storied sports franchise in history. In the city of Los Angeles, California, palm trees, sunshine, beautiful weather, Beverly Hills, Rodeo Drive, Melrose Place, and beyond. You cannot be Earvin Magic Johnson with all of that available to you. Plus with young talent like Kuzma and Randall and Ball and Ingram. Plus with enough cap space, right around $70 million and counting. Enough to grab at least one max player, arguably 2. And you walk away with nothing. It cannot happen. It just can't. It just can't. Magic Johnson ain't going anywhere unless he wants to. Magic Johnson's going to be with the Lakers for years to come. Magic Johnson's going to be running basketball operations, etc., etc. We get all of that. But the faith that everybody has in him, the belief we have and we should have in his greatness and his expertise was somewhat compromised by the picking of Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball's the number 2 overall pick. Didn't play like it. Has a high basketball IQ, incredible upside, but never wanted to be assertive. I was making the argument today on First Take. Lonzo Ball, in his rap lyrics against teammate Kyle Kuzma as they were trolling and playing each other, just playing around, Lonzo Ball was more aggressive with his rap lyrics and his verbiage than he ever was on a basketball court for the Lakers in his first season. That is unacceptable. You got to have cats that could grow up. Guys, LeBron, Paul George, Chris Paul, potentially. These guys ain't trying to come here to babysit. Take your head out of you know what, and get going. Enough. You got a ball. Kuzma, I'm not going to hold against so much because Kuzma comes to ball. Lonzo was more assertive in his rap lyrics than he had been the entire rookie year on the basketball court. If he went after opponents the way he went after Kyle Kuzma, maybe we would have been talking about him the way we were talking about some of these other rookies. I'm just saying. Either way you slice it, having conversations with Magic Johnson, or having conversations rather with Lonzo Ball about how they need to tone down the rhetoric with each other. Yeah, that's part of Magic Johnson's job description. The other half is getting a star to Tinseltown. There's a few of them out there this summer, and the Lakers have the means to get it. They just got to recruit. And I'll be damned if I want to hear the name Rob Pelinka. Mad respect to him, good luck. But I don't give a damn about Rob Pelinka right now when it comes to recruiting. I give a damn about one man. His name is Irvin Magic Johnson. Paul George could stay in OKC or go to Philly, or he could come to you. Kawhi could demand a trade to you or stay in San Antonio or go to Boston. LeBron can choose his pick of the litter. Chris Paul could choose to come back. I just gave you 4 guys. If LeBron James had to get me 1 in the NBA Finals, why shouldn't Magic have to get me 1 in free agency? I believe in my brother Magic Johnson. And I'm hoping and praying for him, because God am I rooting for L.A. But the Magic Man has got to get it done. 888 say ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. I started off the show talking about sports gambling, and I'm going to piggyback off of that to bring on my next guest. He's the business reporter for ESPN, one of the best in the business. His name is Darren Rovell, and he'll be on with yours truly next, right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like a whole new person.
Disclaimer, you will not become a whole new person. This is impossible. You might be able to join a gym or diet program, buy a new wardrobe, get hair implants, but your DNA and physical form will remain the same. Geico waives any and all liability if you attempt to become a new person, except a cyborg. If you choose to become a half-human, half-cybernetic organism with lasers for eyes, the Geico legal team would be cool with that, because, quote, laser eyes are pretty sweet. Pew, 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 end quote.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
31 minutes past hour. Number 1, back here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. As I told you earlier, my honor and privilege to have my next guest on the line, business reporter extraordinaire for ESPN. Does an outstanding job for us. Always look forward to talking to him. He's at Monmouth. Right, he was there today, witnessing the first bet get placed by Governor Phil Murphy. The one and only Darren Rovell for ESPN is on the line with yours truly right now. What's going on, Darren? How are you, buddy?
Good afternoon, Stephen A.
Put in perspective for me how big of a day this was for the state of New Jersey and how big of a day this was for the world of sports, considering that we're talking about the legalization of sports gambling.
Sure. Well, I was in Delaware last Tuesday, and Delaware is probably going to do 10% of what New Jersey will do in a year in terms of total handle, and that was evident today. I mean, at Monmouth Park, there were hundreds and hundreds of people waiting to place their first legal sports bets. I'm waiting to figure out, as soon as the day closes here, we'll see exactly how much the total handle is. But they say that when it reaches maturity in maybe 2 or 3 years, the state of New Jersey might do $10 billion in bets.
So if it's 10
And you talk
about $10 billion in 1 year? You talk about $10 billion in 1 year?
I am.
Wow. Oh, my goodness.
Go ahead. Here's the thing. the thing is, how are people going to react to legalized betting? Are they going to not want to show up because, they don't want to be seen? Are they still going to go to their bookie because the bookie offers credit? And, you need your cold hard cash if you're going to place a bet at one of these places in New Jersey. People have relationships with their bookies. And I even spoke to Joe Asher, who's the William Hill CEO. They're partnering with
Darren, talk closer to the phone because your voice is fading a little bit. We were losing you for a second. Go ahead, buddy.
So I even had a chance to talk to Joe Asher, who's the CEO of William Hill, and they're partnering with Monmouth. And he said, yeah, we understand people still have relationships with bookies, and we don't think everyone's going to come in here. So that's going to be a question. But certainly there's money to be made, and that's the reason why New Jersey did what they did. And, the Supreme Court basically said, okay, states, do what you want. And Jersey and Delaware are there, and we expect Mississippi soon and maybe a couple more states this year. And then every other state will judge and see whether they think it's a moneymaker.
Darren Rovell, business reporter for ESPN, right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Darren, what would be the hesitancy specifically for somebody who was operating underground with bookies, departing from those bookies to just engage in legalized gambling? What would be the hiccup there? Why would that be a problem?
Yeah, you think that would be a natural, right? Like the anxiety of having to show up and see someone in person and get the envelope, and maybe get the envelope 4 days later after a bet instead of showing up right away in a legalized situation. You think that would be a natural. But there are, relationships with these bookies. Bookies might give a guy who's done business with him better odds. And as I said before, you don't need to have $10,000 cash. You might be down $25,000, and the bookie could say, all right, make any bet you want. The question also is going to be, as legalized sports gambling happens and the states realize money through taxes, are the states going to get more stringent on cracking down on bookies?
That was my next question, because I'm wondering how difficult is life going to become for those bookies, or is there a way that these bookies can also become a bit legalized and they could become a part of the gambling process that's allowed?
Well, I don't think that'll ever happen, because the states will never trust them. They're never going to report what they really make. And I would say the other side to it is, remember, no one who's ever bet with a bookie has been prosecuted. Only the bookies get prosecuted. The people that actually bet have never been prosecuted, even though the law is kind of a bit ambiguous. So I think that there will be people who will still bet with their bookies. I don't know what percent. They're hoping, obviously, to take a whole bunch of these guys and convert them. But I would also say that in order to place a bet of more than $1,000, you have to declare your name, and they put it in the system. That's a pretty low bet for some people, and they don't want their name associated in the government and the state to have their name. So that's another reason to go with the bookie.
Darren Rovell right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Darren, what do you think this will do for the sports leagues and the networks?
The question is there added value above what occurs? Is the pie expanding? Or are the states just taking a piece of business that previously existed? If it's the latter, then it might not do much, because the ratings will be pretty much the same. You're just shifting dollars from the offshore books, which are sketchier than bookies in a way, and putting it into the pockets of the states. Now, I think that it's going to grow the pie, and it just depends on how much it does. So you start with the ratings, which are more important as there's TV fragmentation. People have more choices than ever before. The watching it on TV is very important to the future of rights fees, which hopefully the leagues think the Amazons and the YouTubes of the world are going to be, and the Facebooks are going to be able to give them a boost again. So I think it'll help. Now, the other question is, are these leagues going to get away with what they apparently are asking for? which in some cases, which is baseball and the NBA, asking for an integrity fee, where they say, because the costs of regulating this are going to be ramped up, we need a piece of the pie. And therefore, we want 1% of the total bet of anything bet on our games. Now, that doesn't currently happen in Vegas, but you wonder if that's going to happen. If that happens, the Players Association say, wait. You're using our names, so we deserve 1% too. And then the states might argue that, all of a sudden what looks so good doesn't look as good anymore if you're giving away portions to the leagues and the players. So there's a lot that needs to shake out.
Now, you remember when the reports came out that if the NBA, the NBA would try to get involved in all of this and they would want 1% of all bets made? People were saying, I think yourself included, that would never happen. Conceivably, if a sports league took that position, how much money do you think, I shouldn't ask, how much of a percentage per se do you think a sports league would end up getting of all bets being made?
Yeah, I don't know. It could be 1%. It could be less. I would say that Adam Silver and the NBA would also have to be careful.
Why?
Because, I'll tell you. Because you know how Adam has been very upfront about issuing reports immediately after when calls are made, and they've been very upfront about bad calls. Well,
right.
Now you're taking a piece of the pie, okay? And now you're freely admitting, when you've taken a piece of that pie, that you got the call wrong. What happens now? See, now all of a sudden, getting the call wrong has greater consequences. And if you're dipping in and you took a piece of a bet, and that bet was deemed to be a loss, but then you come back and you say it was a loss because our bad call, then I think you got an issue.
Basically what you're saying is the transparency that the NBA is proud of extolling that they promote is actually going to has the potential to work against them. That's basically what you're telling me.
That's correct.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is this, but how from this perspective? So what? They came back. Human error is a part of it. We're not forcing you to gamble on our product, our brand, our games. You've elected to do so.
That would be the response. That would be the response. Well, I'm just saying, at best, it would be awkward if you're taking a piece of the pie and you say the people that we pay messed up, and, a win is a win and a loss is a loss, and we're sorry, but we're really admitting that you lost because we made a bad call.
And so what are you saying, that the gambler, him or herself, that bet on these games, once the league acknowledged human error took place, what that might be cause for a lawsuit or something like that?
Yeah. Hey, listen, I don't want to, it's another way to call into integrity, the whole process
right.
into integrity, right? Luckily refs, we know we had the Tim Donaghy situation, but refs and guys, the last players on the bench, make enough so you'd think there wouldn't be any issues. But to me, at least for college, they're the ones that could be the most compromised from legalized sports betting because the guys don't get paid. But at least from a professional sports standpoint, if the leagues are taking a cut, this would be the issue if they were as honest as the NBA and as transparent as the NBA after a call was made.
Darren Rovell, always appreciate your time, buddy. Thank you so much. Before I let you get on out of here, at the end of the day, is this a good thing for the world of sports or not, based on just your knowledge of all of this?
Well, for the money, I do believe it's better for the leagues. I think it'll be better for the players. I think some states are going to mess up here. I think some states are not going to make money. I think a lot of people are going to lose money trying to win the game and build an app, build a whole bunch of products. There's going to be winners, big-time winners, and there's going to be, I think, 5 or 10 of them, and there's going to be a ton of losers. And goes that way for gambling, too. So I think it was inevitable anyway. I think the states will get most of the states will get more money, and I think it's obviously good for the leagues because it leads to more watching more interest, which would be more money in the future on rights fees.
Darren Rovell, appreciate you, buddy. Thanks so much, man.
You got
Take
it.
care. All right. The one and only Darren Rovell, business reporter for ESPN, right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. 888-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. I'm telling you, there's going to be pros and cons to all of it, but at the end of the day, you got to do this. When you got fantasy sports leagues all over the place, and you got leagues essentially engaging in gambling, no matter what they say, you have to legalize it. You just have to. It's the right thing to do. But there are going to be some cons to this. There are going to be some folks who suffer because of this. Make no mistake about it. Back with more of the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio in a minute.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! To the phones we go real quick. Arthur and Callie, you're live with Stephen A. You got about 40 seconds. Go.
Hey, thanks, Steven. I'm just calling back because you roasted me yesterday, told me to call you back. I'm just giving you two reasons why we don't want LeBron and we don't need LeBron. Number one, we don't want LeBron because of the blasphemous disrespect that's been put on my guy Kobe. He's somehow already better than Kobe, and he's already better than Jordan. I have no idea how. You got to tell your associates to think better than that.
Man, didn't I tell you got 40 seconds? Hurry up. What's the
point?
point?
Second of all, we don't need him because we don't need him to come here and it's hoopla the first couple weeks. Then they start losing a couple games. He starts frowning and touting. Then he says, my teammates are trash and I need to change the roster in the middle of the season. We were only 8 games out of the playoffs last year. We just need a couple good signings. We don't need LeBron. We don't need his phony triple-doubles. He's the Russell Westbrook of the East, except when he gets triple-doubles, he gets praised instead of getting grilled like Russell does.
I got you. Good job. When I tell y'all 40 minutes, it's because I got a hard commercial break. Pay attention and be ready for your points. Hour number 2 up next. I got a whole lot of stuff to talk about. Terrence Crawford, too, up next.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.